Good morning and good afternoon and good evening from wherever you are joining us today. We are the V2020 Task Force of the Charter for Compassion Women and Girls sector. The Charter for Compassion is a network of networks and is represented by compassionate people across the globe. The Women and Girls sector of the Charter envisions a world which all girls and women reach their fullest potential for global transformation, infusing compassion as our driving force. We come together from all places on the planet, from all cultures, and intergenerationally. We wish for this to be a safe and sacred place where all voices are welcome. We operate using the circle principles, meaning that we are intentionally avoiding hierarchies and its patriarchal roots. However, so that the message of awakening and personal agency in the context of nurturing racial justice can be shared and spread, this call is being recorded. After a brief interview with our guest panelists, there will be an open Q&A where we will invite and encourage all those present to participate. No one is obligated to participate or turn on their cameras. If you do not feel comfortable speaking and would like to participate anonymously, please use the chat function in the bottom middle of your screen and send a message privately to our panelists. We will not use your name in addressing your question. The V2020 series aims to elevate the voices of all women and girls by affirming the unofficial proposed SDG 18 of self-awareness and personal agency. The SDG 18 proposal is to highlight the role of the individual in achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals set out by the United Nations. Anchored by the Mother's Day Proclamation of Peace, a call to women of all nations to join together and to tap into this very idea of self-expression, the V2020 series wishes to mobilize women and girls by being a vessel of shared knowledge and wisdom. We sincerely appreciate you taking time out of your day today to reflect, to listen, and to learn. And as I mentioned, this is a recorded call, so if you need to step out early, no need to worry about missing anything. As a registrant, you will receive the email with the link to this call. And from here, I'd like to introduce our next gen moderator today, Maha Khawaja. She is our next gen ambassador of the Charter for Compassion Women and Girls sector and the Director of Marketing and Communications at Compassion First, an organization founded by her mother and herself. She is passionate about social justice education and was invited as a moderator today to help bridge the conversations between the generations represented in our society today. Maha has recently graduated from the University of Toronto in 2019 with an honors Bachelor of Arts in Sociology. Her main areas of research were immigration and refugee policy, as well as race relations. She currently works full-time and will be pursuing her legal education in the near future. And from here, I would like to introduce you to Maha.
Thank you, Donna. So before we get any further, I would like for us all to take a moment and pause and reflect. And in the spirit of acknowledging the wisdom shared between generations and in listening, I'm going to do a land acknowledgement, which is an intentional albeit small, act in undoing the erasure of Indigenous folks on this land that I call home. I recognize that I am on the land of the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. In the 1805 Toronto Purchase, this land that I now live on was legally taken over by the British Crown in exchange for freedoms that were never actually upheld. And so the privileges that I'm enjoying today, living in a safe and suburban neighborhood, were truly at the expense of the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee peoples who lived and continue to live on this land. This is a theme that will come up in our discussion today, and I invite you to keep in mind. What privileges do you enjoy that are at the expense of others? In order to create a compassionate world, as the Charter for Compassion affirms, we must confront this question and honestly take transformative action in reconciliation. With that, welcome once again to the fifth call of the V2020 series, Awakening Across Generations. I will now be playing a rendition of the Mother's Day Proclamation of Peace, which Donna mentioned was what anchors these V2020 calls. This was written and proclaimed by Julia Ward Howe 150 years ago. And as you're watching this, I really encourage you to pay attention to the language that is being used and consider how that is still relevant today. So without further ado, let me just share my screen and get that video started.
The Mother's Day Proclamation. In 1870, Julia Ward Howe wrote a proclamation. She was a feminist, a suffragette, and an advocate for social justice. She called for an appeal to mothers to spare their sons and the sons of others the great sufferings created by war. She lived the rest of her life traveling the world and sharing this message of peace. See if you can feel her plea and let it move you. Here is the proclamation. Arise then, women of this day. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether our baptism be of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands will not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses nor applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, the women of one country, will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs.
From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with ours. It says, disarm! Disarm! The sword is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession.
As men have often forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of council. Let them meet first as women to bewail and commemorate the dead. Then let them solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace, each learning after his own time the sacred impress, not of Caesar,
but of God. In the name of womanhood and humanity, I earnestly ask that a General Congress of Women without limit of nationality may be appointed and held at some place deemed most convenient and at the earliest period consistent with its objects, to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, this great and general interests of peace.
Okay. All right. So thank you all for engaging in this pause. This video is available on YouTube, and as a registrant, you will have gotten a link to that video as well for you to view at your leisure. So now I would like to introduce our panelists for today. We are joined by Patricia Farrow and Sarah Jamil. I'll keep the introductions brief, but I really encourage you to check out their websites and see all of the work that they have been doing and continue to do. Patricia joins us from Ann Arbor, Michigan. She is a passionate woman who has dedicated her life to igniting the collective feminine in planetary awakening. Patricia has written 4 books and is in the process of writing a 5th. The one that inspired this particular call is called What Happens When Women Wake Up, which is a roadmap for clearing internalized patriarchy through the voices of women from all walks of life. I personally had some profound takeaways from reading this and cannot give her work enough praise. Patricia is also a psychotherapist and has led workshops and retreats based on her books, as well as other topics empowering women. So welcome, Patricia. And our next panelist is Sarah Jamil, who joins us from Toronto, Canada. Now, to me, Sarah is first and foremost a mother in that she is my mother. I was kind of trying to figure out how I should be referring to her in this call, so don't be alarmed if the odd mama slips out here or there. So that's what she is to me. But to the world, she is a mentor, a spiritual activist, and founder of Compassion First, which is a mother-daughter social enterprise on a mission to create a liberated and just world, one woman and girl at a time. Together with her two daughters, myself and Alina, Sarah weaves community and sisterhood locally as well as globally through partnerships, workshops, and her signature retreat, A Cup of Soul. She is currently serving as co-lead of the Charter for Compassion, along with Donna Mills, who did the introduction earlier. And the women and girls sector particularly is the vessel for these V2020 calls. So welcome, Sarah, as well.